Now we're into round 7, so we're coming into this 4 and 2, so we're pretty much out of top 8 contention, unfortunately, but I was keen to keep playing at this point, and this hand's fantastic. So this hand has a turn 1 Doomsday line with kill, but no protection. We can play it a bit slow as well with the Preordain and the Demonic Tutor. But I think in this particular case, I end up deciding to just jam and just hope to dodge Force of Will. So the line here is we go Lotus, Dark Ritual. So Lotus for triple black, Dark Ritual for triple black, giving us 5 black in pool. We Demonic Tutor, we grab Ancestral Recall, and then we cast Doomsday. Then we get to play our land for turn, our Underground Sea, to give us the 1 blue mana. So we're out of mana after we Doomsday, but then we put the sea into play, cast our Ancestral, and draw into our pile, and probably just draw something like Lotus, Thassa's Oracle, I guess a daze. It doesn't really matter at that point. We've pretty much, if we get to that point, we've already won, but, just in case. So this is a fairly aggressive line, as I mentioned before, but it's a lot rarer to have Force of Will in hand than I think we sometimes think or sometimes find. As you tend to find if you draw a lot of Ancestral Recalls on turn 1, and I think we've done that a few times now. So we've got our Doomsday off. This basically means we're good to go. So we're putting another Oracle in just in case. And I guess we can put in... We want to put in a Gitaxian Probe, actually. Yeah, there we go. So if, for whatever reason, somehow the Thassa's Oracle gets countered, we have enough lands to cast our second one. Even after being Wastelanded, now we've set everything up. But what we really want to know is what opponent is on. And they're most likely going to scoop here, but they might have F6'd. And they scoop. So we don't actually know what we're playing against. I don't really know how we want to hedge. I guess we probably... I think I actually looked opponent up at this point because I wanted to find out what they were most likely to be on. And I think after we checked Goldfish, we found out they were most likely on Breach. So we want our anti-Breach cards. Now the exact cards we need are going to depend on whether or not we think they're on Breach with white. But I think it's okay to hedge against that. And here we can cut like a Street Wraith, a basic island. Not super keen on cutting Vamp, but it's probably our only option. Maybe we could have cut a second Street Wraith there, but I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure. Like, Breach is a really bad matchup for us. It's... We lucked out then by getting to go first, by getting the play, and by having, a pretty ballistic hand, pretty high velocity hand. So one of the reasons it's a really bad matchup is the existence of Brain Freeze. So if at any point you manage to cast your Doomsday, and they have mana to cast a Brain Freeze, they can just wait for you to cast a spell, and then Brain Freeze you in response and just mill you out. So yeah, you get your Doomsday pile. Then the moment you do anything at all, so we normally want to draw into the pile somehow. That's just when they'll mill your pile straight into your graveyard. You'll draw a card and you'll lose the game. This is going to be considerably harder now we're on the draw. And we can't keep this hand. It has 2 free counter spells, but that's not really going to buy us enough time. And this hand's good. I guess we probably just, yeah, maybe we bottom the Flusterstorm. I can see bottoming the Flusterstorm here. Okay, so I have to bottom the Preordain. I guess this means maybe I'm just going to try and jam. So the Daze is looking pretty bad now, unfortunately. And a Sapphire's perfect, so Sapphire's going to let us cast out Flusterstorm here. So what we really want is the... Okay, so they did have the Brain Freeze, and so we've managed to not play into it. What we really want to be able to do is we want to be able to try and... Dark Ritual on a turn, in the same turn that we can draw into the pile. So we want to cast Doomsday on the same turn that we can draw into the pile. So we probably need another draw effect. And Thassa's Oracle is not exactly what we want to be drawing. So it looks like maybe I'm considering casting the Oracle here. And I'm just casting the Doomsday. So I guess the reason to cast the Doomsday here is if... Delay a card off killing us at this point. And we have to let the misstep counter the ritual. We're not going to fight over that. So the reason to cast the Doomsday there is, look, we know one of the Brain Freezes is out of the hand, so the way that they mill us out now is by naturally having the second Brain Freeze, or having Underworld Breach in hand, from a position where we can't cast it. Or we can't fight over it. We'll go ahead and we'll Flusterstorm the dig through time. It's an easy Flusterstorm there. We don't really want our opponent finding the breach from this position. And second Flusterstorm's not a bad pickup here. We're they're definitely the aggressor in this. We have to try and play control in this matchup. They find it much easier to be the aggressor. They have a combo that's nearly as fast as ours, but interacts better with ours than ours does with them. And so fundamentally, we need to just try to, I guess, stay on top of the game, keep them pinched where we can. And then I think once we have some kind of control over the game, we then want to go for the throw. To make that actually happen, we are going to need to draw some more mana first. We've done a pretty phenomenal job of missing on a lot of lands at this point. Gitaxian Probe. And them having Flusterstorm is not good for us. Nor is the what I assume is going to be a Lavinia. Yep. So this unfortunately probably spells game over for us. So Underworld Breach into Demonic Tutor for Black Lotus. So we could actually, we could try to fluster the Demonic Tutor, but the reality there is they get to fight back without much stress. And then just basically go off and kill us. And our Mindbreak Trap is unfortunately stuck in our hand and rotting at this point. It's a little bit frustrating, but Lavinia can be quite a back-breaking card against Doomsday. It can also do nothing at all sometimes. It's not unreasonable for Lavinia to actually be a brick in the matchup. If we hit our land drops, we can pretty comfortably just Dark Ritual Doomsday and then make a pile that just lets us actually pay mana for our spells. So something like an Ancestral into, a land plus our Oracle lets us just play through Lavinia pretty easily. But here, it's unfortunately, stopping us from using our spells. And there's the Demonic Tutor, and we can Flusterstorm this, but it doesn't actually make a difference, unfortunately. At least I think it doesn't make a difference. Actually, no, because I think they let the DT get counted and then they brain freeze. And then they probably go off from there. So we can concede now. We now know for sure that we need the Lavinia, so we can keep the Karakas in. And I think I think the only thing we might want to consider is once again trading the Street Wraith for a Vampiric Tutor, but I'm not 100% sure. We can probably keep this hand. It's got a couple of pieces of interaction. It's got our Doomsday, and it's got a Ponder to help us start doing things, so it's not a stellar hand by any stretch. But it lets us play Magic. And hopefully what we'll do is we'll just turn one Ponder. They'll do whatever, hopefully not kill us through a daze, and then turn two, maybe they'll do something like play a Lavinia, or a breach or something like that, and we'll get to cash in our days. We have a Chain of Vapor as removal for Lavinia as well, if it does happen to actually hit the board. So we're not cold to it either. The other thing that the Chain of Vapor might be able to do is possibly bounce an opportunely timed... Okay, right. So here we have to decide whether or not we want to keep this Ponder. And it's tough because there is a Preordain in there and another land to let us cast our Doomsday. But I think we want like a Force of Will or something like that, and we get paid off big time for choosing to shuffle. So that Ponder was a hard decision, I think. Like, it actually let us do things. There were cards that let us do things. We were going to, make a land drop to cast our Doomsday, Preordain again. But there's just so many more broken hands, or broken cards that I think, or just effective cards even, that I think we could have been drawing. And I think we just needed velocity. And that's why the decision. So something like a Dark Ritual or even a Necropotence or something, so that we can get our alternate win con. So a better win con in this matchup is Oracle Consultation. And, like a shuffle might actually get us closer to something like that. So, I mean, it's always nice to draw Ancestral anyway, but... Alright, and now we have a Brainstorm. So I think we're going to probably pass the turn. We're not incentivized to use the Brainstorm just yet. We can do it in their end step. And then if the Brainstorm resolves, we can probably go like Ancestral. And here we want to float mana and... Okay, so I'm leading on Ancestral. So Ancestral is bait here. Basically, if they decide to Reb, then that makes our days live. And we're actually okay to trade the Ancestral with the Reb from this position. Here we're going to float blue for our Brainstorm, if we want to use that, and cast another days, because we really don't want this Lavinia to hit the board. We also now have a Force of Negation if they want to force back or have any spell that they want to cast. Also, of note, if we can push through from here, we actually have the ability to go off next turn. So the way we do that is Lotus Doomsday, and then we can Brainstorm off an Underground Sea to draw into our pile. We'll have 2 lands and whatever we draw off the top to put back. And that will let us basically just, we'll trade the 2 lands for something like Ancestral Lotus. Mindbreak Trap is fine. And here we have a difficult decision. It was a difficult-ish decision. So the reason to pitch the Chain of Vapor, it does leave us cold to Lavinia with this hand. But the Brainstorm lets us keep going. So the Brainstorm actually does more for us in that we can actually, it'll let us find cards after that exchange, and also lets us win the game. And so, with this, so we can, if we cast Brainstorm here, yeah. Yeah, so if we cast our Brainstorm, because we have the Oracle in hand, we can actually Brainstorm into a Daze. Which is kind of nice because it means that if opponent lets the Brainstorm happen or doesn't react to the Brainstorm, but then does have something that they want to fight over afterwards, They're more likely to try and counter the brainstorm. But if they do let anything else happen, then we can just follow it up with a daze. So opponent's thinking about something. And they've decided to gush. So this is like, this gush is very bad for them one way or another. It puts them back a long way and leaves us so far ahead that it's not funny, but they do kind of need to do it. And they obviously miss on the gush, and we now have a Lotus and Ancestral recall, and we take the match.